A single tiny IP mistake made in the early days can literally vaporize millions in valuation for a startup that's otherwise doing everything right. Today, we're diving deep into intellectual property in Romania. It's a topic that, let's be honest, often gets shoved to the bottom of the to-do list. But it secretly holds the key to your startup's growth, its funding, and yeah, its survival. Okay, well, let's get right into it. And look, this quote, it isn't just some abstract warning from a lawyer. It is a cold, hard business reality. We have seen amazing Romanian startups get to the final handshake of a funding deal, only to have it all fall apart because an investor found out they didn't legally own their own logo. Thinking of IP as just another box to check is, frankly, a recipe for disaster. Let's break down exactly why. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to expose the dangerous mindset that trips up so many founders. Then, we'll get into the three main pillars of your IP: your brand, your creative work, and your secret sauce. We're even going to put on our investor hats and see how they pick your assets apart. And then, we'll wrap up with a playbook for building an IP strategy that actually works. So let's start with the most important part, the fundamental shift in thinking you need to have to succeed. It's all about moving away from seeing IP as a chore and starting to see it as a core part of your business strategy. This slide just nails it. The old way of thinking, we'll deal with IP later, is a death sentence. The reality is that IP is a core asset you're building from day one. Every single line of code, every design, every name you come up with, think of them as bricks in your company's foundation. And if those bricks aren't legally solid, the whole thing is just waiting to crumble. And these aren't just, theoretical problems. These are real-world nightmares for founders. Ever pitched your secret sauce without an NDA? You might have just given it away. Hired a freelancer to build your website? Well, if you don't have a very specific contract, you might not actually own it. These are the kinds of mistakes that you can't undo, and they can sink your ship before you've even left the harbor. Okay, let's move on to your most visible asset, your brand. You might have the coolest name and the slickest logo, but here in Romania, just using it means almost nothing from a legal perspective. Let's be super clear about this. A trademark isn't a nice to have. It's the legal deed to your brand's identity. And in Romania, the rule is simple and honestly kind of brutal. First to file wins, period. It doesn't matter if you've been using the name for years. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 customers. If someone else registers it first, you lose. It's that simple. And this is exactly how that disaster plays out. You launch, you build buzz, you pour money into marketing, your customers love you, and then one day, bam, you find out a competitor registered your name. The result? A painful, expensive, and humiliating rebrand that throws away all the hard work and momentum you've built. Now, this is where the strategy really comes into play. Getting a national trademark is like building a fortress in Romania. It's strong, it's defensible, and it's relatively quick. An EU trademark, on the other hand, is like trying to conquer a whole continent. The potential payoff is huge, but you're open to attack from every single direction. The right move all depends on your plan for growth. All right, next up, copyright. This is all about your software code, your website, your designs, all that creative stuff. And here's where we find a huge trap that so many founders fall right into. They confuse the fact that a right exists with actually owning that right. That's right. The second you create something original, boom, copyright protection kicks in automatically. No registration, no forms. Sounds easy, right? But the critical question isn't, is this protected? The real question, the one that can make or break your company, is who legally owns that protection? Okay, I need you to pay very close attention to this table, because this is where countless startups have self-destructed. If you have ever worked with a freelancer or a contractor without a written, rock-solid IP assignment clause, you are sitting on a ticking time bomb. You paid for their hours, sure, but you do not own their work. And when an investor discovers that during due diligence, your funding round is dead. Done. So, you've locked down your code and your designs. Fantastic. But what about the really unique idea at the heart of your business? That innovative process nobody else has. This brings us to your most valuable and, honestly, most fragile asset of all, your secret sauce. This is the million-dollar question for so many tech founders, isn't it? You've built an algorithm that you know is revolutionary, and you want to wrap it in the ironclad protection of a patent. But what does the law actually say? And there it is, the hard truth. You can't just patent lines of code or an algorithm by themselves. In the eyes of the law, those are just abstract ideas. To even have a shot at a patent, your software has to be a critical piece of a larger physical invention that produces a real, tangible, technical result in the world. It is an incredibly high bar to clear. So if a patent's off the table, what do you do? Well, you might be able to protect it as a trade secret. But here's the catch. You have to treat it like a state secret. I mean, is it truly confidential? Does keeping it a secret give you a real edge? And most importantly, are you actively protecting it with things like NDAs, access controls, and secure data rooms? If the answer is no to any of those, you don't have a trade secret. You just have a secret that's about to get out. And this is the chilling reality of a trade secret. Think of it like a soap bubble. It's beautiful, it can be incredibly valuable while it exists, but the second it's exposed to the open air, the moment it becomes public knowledge, it pops. And once it's gone forever. You can never get it back. Now, let's pull all this together and look at it from the one perspective that matters most to so many startups, the investor. They aren't just investing in your cool idea. They are investing in your legally defensible assets. When an investor's legal team starts their due diligence process, this is the exact checklist they're going through. They don't care that your logo looks cool. They want to see the registration certificate. They won't take your word for who wrote the code. They'll demand to see the signed contracts. Any gray area, we'll figure it out later, is a massive red flag that just screams high risk. I really want you to let this sink in. Your biggest IP risk probably isn't getting sued by a competitor. It's the deafening silence from investors who look at your company and see a house of cards, ready to fall over at the slightest legal gust of wind. They will not put money into a business with a shaky legal foundation. And without that investment, your growth story is over before it really begins. So after all that doom and gloom, how do we fix it? How do we move from being scared and defensive to being proactive and strategic? How do we build an IP strategy that actually helps us grow? The very first, most practical step is an IP audit. Think of it like a complete health checkup for your company's most valuable assets. It's the process that turns, I think we own this, into, I have the signed paperwork to prove we own this. It's about systematically finding out what you have, where the dangers are, and then building a clear roadmap to lock it all down before you even think about talking to an investor. So here's the bottom line. Your IP isn't just a legal shield, it is the actual blueprint of your business. It's the steel frame that supports your growth, the foundation that secures your value, and the walls that protect you. The law gives you the building materials, but you are the architect. And the strength of your company depends entirely on how well you design it. So as we wrap this up, I want you to ask yourself one very honest question. Right now, is your IP strategy a springboard for your ambitions, or is it an anchor holding you back? Don't wait for an investor's rejection email to find out the answer. Take a hard look at your IP foundation today and start building the future you want.